So Holosun is again taking red dots to new heights. The SCS, or solar charging sight, is just the next step forward from the last step forward with the EPS. The SCS is a new auto adjuster originally on the Glock MOS footprint, and this particular version is in the family of the Delta Point Pro footprint, or more specifically the P320 optics footprint. It's an enclosed emitter optic and only available in green with their multi-reticle system, but is it any good? Welcome back to the Humble Marksman channel. I'm David, and this is the Holosun SCS 320. But before we get started, I do need to shout out the video and channel sponsor that made this video possible, which is Optics Planet, and the code HUMM does absolutely nothing there, and you shouldn't try it. But also my Patreon supporters, thank you very much. They have absolutely impeccable taste in music. Just ask them, they'll tell you. So back to the topic. Rechargeable batteries are interesting. Now, one of the brands that does rechargeable batteries and is loved to be crapped on is Olight, but the fact that Olight uses rechargeable batteries means the form factors of their lights become very interesting because you can make the battery be basically whatever shape you want, and that's what Holosun have done with the rechargeable battery in this pistol optic. So while that gives us access to a really cool form factor on the optic, the downside is you can't replace the optic if the battery starts to go dead when you're on a range session. Now, no worries, because there's this little solar panel on top, and now previously Holosun sights have had a solar fail-safe panel, meaning that if the battery goes down, the sight will still function off the ambient lighting, and that is true on this sight as well. But what's really cool about this one is the output from the emitter is less than the energy generated from the solar panel. So simply having it outside and letting it be exposed to ambient lighting is charging the battery faster than it's being depleted, which is pretty cool. Now, another thing that may be a black eye that some people won't be able to get past is this is an auto adjusting optic. Now, I, like you, have had issues with auto adjusting optics in the past. The problems are all the same. They don't give you enough optic when you want it. When you're going through different lighting conditions, they take too long to adjust. Then there's this optic, which gives you absolutely everything you want at the appropriate level and changes super fast. It's kind of eerie how well the auto adjuster works, given all the other auto adjusters are basically garbage. This auto adjuster works so well, I don't have my contacts in right now, and I'm in like dim studio lighting. And looking at the optic, it's only giving me enough optic to where I'm getting a slight fuzz around the reticle, which is almost no fuzz. Like, that's actually a pretty clean picture to my eye. So this sight is intelligent enough to where it doesn't create blooming or distortion. Now, there are those of you, specifically new optic shooters, who are gonna be out there who like to bloom their optic, which is a terrible practice and you shouldn't do it. There's a lot of reasons why that is, and we won't go into them here. So you won't be able to bloom the reticle on this specific optic. And additionally, this reticle is only available in green. Some of you guys really, really love green, and the reason for that is that your eyes have the most receptors that can identify green as a color than any other color. But at the same time, the kind of light that green puts out is more scattered, and when it hits your eye can cause more appearance of an astigmatism if that's you. But I have an astigmatism, and like I say, the reticle actually looks really clean. And I'm not really a green dot supporter or enjoyer. I mean, I can use them, but they aren't my favorite or my preference. But I didn't find that was an issue with this one. I just shot it and it worked great. Now, possibly the only negative, well, there's two. One is very minor and one is a little bit more major, is the number one, the very minor criticism is that the deck height, while it is very, very low, is not quite low enough to co-witness with standard height sights, as you see here on this AXG Legion. It kind of almost peaks over the deck height, the front sight, but it's not enough to kind of co-witness. And the other thing that I noticed is that when you're in a super bright, like high summer Texas sunny day, this thing goes nuclear. It puts off so much light. It actually does, I guess, bloom a little bit if you're not wearing sunglasses, but on a day like that, you're usually wearing sunglasses. It has this like super appropriate amount of light output until you get it in full sun, then it's just like, it dimes it. It throws all the light it has at it, which I guess is better than the alternative. But I found when I was shooting with glasses that didn't kind of dim the reticle a little bit, it was a little bit overwhelming on light colored targets like white steel targets. That's a pretty mild criticism. In all honesty, I'd rather have slightly too much dot than not enough, and this puts out, I would say, a little bit too much dot in full sun. So a couple things about the optic. Number one is the shroud is aluminum. It's very well machined. It goes overall with the P320 sort of aesthetic. It's a good looking sight. The glass does have a slight fisheye effect. It's very, very minor, which means that this is using Mangan lenses as opposed to aspherical lenses, which are basically distortion free. That said, the notch filter that they use on this glass basically doesn't discolor anything. Some people really don't like the super blue-green notch filters of other optics manufacturers, and if that's you, then you'll love the fact that this glass doesn't discolor basically anything. The lens window on this optic is what I would consider a full-size dot. It's not as big as like a Delta Point Pro, but it is as big as other offerings. It's slightly bigger than like the Holosun 507 type windows. So the optic is a pretty solid piece of kit. It's probably going to just live on this gun, and I'm not gonna change it out because I rather like the sight. So Holosun does another good job and has another optic out there. So I appreciate Optics Planet for sending the Optic 4 video, and I appreciate you for watching it.